Zweig Group invites all AEC industry leaders to the 2024 AEC Small Business and Entrepreneurship Forum, the premier event for small firms in the AEC sector. Experience innovative strategies and insights on May 21st, crafted by Zweig Group's industry experts. Engage in keynotes and interactive sessions focused on recruitment, retention, and business growth. Join Zweig Group for this unique networking opportunity and take your business to new heights. Secure your spot today and be part of the AEC industry's future. Visit zweiggroup.com for more information. The Zweig Group team looks forward to welcoming you.
Welcome to the Zweig Letter Podcast, putting architectural, engineering, planning, and environmental consulting guru Mark Zweig's straight talk in your ear. Mark has more than 30 years of experience helping AEP and environmental firms thrive. And these podcasts help deliver his invaluable management, industry, client, and HR advice directly to you, free of charge. The Zweig Letter Podcasts let you develop professionally, wherever you are.
Hey folks, it's Randy Wilburn. I'm here with Mark Zweig, and we're here for another episode of the Zweig Letter Podcast. So glad to be back with you. Mark and I try to get together from time to time and record a bunch of these episodes at one time so that we can deal with the rest of our busy schedule here at Zweig Group, because there's always something happening. There's always a meeting going on, and we just try to get in where we can and get these great podcasts out to you as quickly as possible. As you know, I had explained a couple of weeks ago that the format has changed some. And what we're doing now is instead of Mark reading the articles verbatim, we are now just talking about the issues that come up and that are discussed in Mark's writing. And so we want to kind of focus on these articles this way. And we certainly would love your feedback whenever you can. Please get back to us and let us know your thoughts. You can reach us on Twitter at Zweig Group. You can reach us on Facebook at Zweig Group. You can reach Mark and you can reach myself and certainly give us your feedback and let us know what you think about the show and the content and the information. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that person in the room. And, you know, it's the reality that every firm has, you know, what I call a negative Nelly, but it's, you know, Mark calls it a Debbie Downer person. But, you know, that person that's in every meeting and says, well, we can't do that. This won't work. We've never done it that way. That won't be possible. They're constantly talking about ways that things can't be done, as opposed to looking at the positive or the what could actually happen. And so certainly would love to hear from Mark on his thoughts about this and how, as an AEC firm owner, you can overcome those obstacles and challenges with people that are negative Nellies or Debbie Downers, if you will. Mark, why don't you talk a little bit about that specifically and how you've overcome that in your almost 3 decades in this industry?
Actually, it's more than 3 decades.
I'm sorry, I'm shortchanging. It's like 35.
It's almost
4 decades. I'm trying to keep you as young as possible.
It'll be 37 years here coming up. But,
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a long time. But anyway, you know, I don't know. This is one of those subjects that's that it's hard to come up with you know, ways to deal with these people. The fact is they are out there, and you know, it seems like, you know, engineers in particular, and I hate to generalize like that, but you know, they're taught to be very analytical, and when you are, you can see every way that something could go wrong. So it's just sort of, you know, it's almost inbred, I think, to a certain extent, is to think of all the things that can go wrong. And you have to do that when you're dealing with life safety. There's no question about it. You know, when it comes to business, it's another matter. Usually lives aren't at stake. You know, we're talking about financial success or the success of the enterprise. And I just find that, you know, most of the time, you just have to part ways with these people. I mean, it sounds terrible, but rarely can you change the spots on a leopard.
Yeah.
You know, when somebody's 30, 40, 50 years old, their behavior patterns are well formed. And so, they can be very damaging if the first response is always no. And I've had this in my construction business as well. And it's really, we're still suffering from the loss of a guy who was my lead carpenter in 2014, died of cancer, an amazing guy. And you could take any problem to him and say, Jack, what do you think about this? We can do it.
Right.
Whereas now I have other guys, and some of them are as good or better carpenters, when it comes to the actual carpentry.
Right.
They were all trained by him.
Right.
And they still, the first reaction is, no, this isn't going to work. It's very frustrating. It really is. And it sort of saps the life force out of everybody else. It's not, it's not just the effect it has on you as the leader or the manager. It's the effect it has on everybody else around him. It really is infectious, this negativity and can't do attitude. And so, what can you do? You got to talk with them. You got to tell them, why is that your first response? Here are some things that we could do. Well, that'll cost more or that'll take longer. Okay, well, we're not talking about that right now.
Yeah.
We're talking, it's just, but, and sometimes you can get through to people. I'm not going to say people never change. Some do.
Yeah.
But it's very, very difficult. So I do think that the longer you're in business, the more likely it is that you're going to accumulate more of these people.
Yeah. And I obviously, at the onset or at the early stages of someone's career, you may run into that. And usually it's just because of just a lack of experience. But obviously it's a challenge when you're dealing with this and, a Debbie Downer in a boardroom.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of just the direction of the company and where you're trying to go. And we hear it all the time. We hear the stories about, well, Bob doesn't want to do this. And Sally thinks that's just too much of a challenge for us to get into right now. And there's no real way for us to do that. I mean, it almost saps the energy of an alpha leader that really wants to take the company to the next level.
It really does. And it's really dangerous at that level. And when you combine it with the culture of the typical AE firm, where any owner has veto rights over all decisions that could be made, you kill the place. That's the problem. It's, we want to have unanimity, particularly at the board. You don't often call votes on things.
Yeah.
And so if one person doesn't go along, it's terrible.
Yeah. You even had that. When I say we, when I'm speaking of the two of us, because we were working together at Zweig, White and Associates back in the day, but you even ran into that and within our own company, almost 20 years ago, which may have stopped you from making some decisions or investments that could have paid off handsomely.
I felt like it did. It was one of the frustrations when, the last time we owned this business, and it's kind of a natural progression. I think you start out and when you're young and you're entrepreneurial, you have absolutely nothing to lose because you have nothing. Period.
Right.
And then eventually you end up and you actually have something.
Yeah.
And then you hire people and they come on board, and some of them are entrepreneurial and some of them aren't. They just They don't want to lose anything that they've got, and it's paralyzing.
Yeah, it's
so
tough.
It really is something to consider. And I'll never forget once I had a client years ago who was a very, very successful architect, and I mean just wildly successful, and he had a huge ego. His ego was out of control in a lot of ways, but he was again extremely successful. So one time I said to his son, I said, geez, what's your relationship like between your mom and your dad? Does she ever just say, hey, rein it in, buddy? And he goes, no, you don't understand. He says, my mom worships the ground he walks on. She never once gave him any negative feedback ever in his life. I said, no wonder the guy's been so successful.
Yeah. That's funny.
Not many of us can claim that.
No,
right?
I know. That's funny. I actually that resonates with me just because my wife has kind of supported every idea that I've ever had. And I think, it goes a long way in helping us as individuals to, achieve some of the objectives in life that we want to achieve. And I think you kind of end this article by really talking about, ways that firms can address this issue if they have a Debbie Downer in the room. But ultimately, at the end of the day, your concern is that, if it ultimately affects the morale of the organization or of that particular group, say like a board, it must be dealt with, or else the company is going to seriously run into a challenge.
Yeah, I think that's it. And it's difficult, but it's just the reality of it. Maybe a good person, but maybe just not the right environment for them.
Yeah.
You just come in. This is the question that confronts us all the time in this business, is trying to put the right team together. Doesn't mean, too, that you can't deal with criticism or you can't look at alternative points of view. It's just that when the point of view is always negative,
right?
The preponderance of the time, it's just negative, negative, negative. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to get along with go along with every idea every time. That's fine. But it's just when that becomes the defining characteristic of the individual, it's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. It's best to root it out soon. I mean, nobody likes weeds growing in their garden, because eventually those weeds will choke the good stuff that you're trying to grow. So, all right. Well, cool. Well, that's awesome. So, Mark, I'm so glad that we're doing it this way, and that this podcast format has changed a little bit, because it definitely gives people kind of an inside view of how you think and the way that you have viewed this. And certainly, like I always tell people, that the advice that you give, not just on this podcast but in person, is the same advice. I mean, you don't change just because you're being recorded or memorialized in any way, shape, or form. So this is how you've lived and operated and consulted in this environment for, like you said, almost 4 decades.
Yep. It's been a long time.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, great. So folks, I want to thank you so much for participating in this podcast and checking it out. I would love for you to, if you get a chance, go to iTunes and give us a 5-star ranking if you like the podcast, if it's enjoyable. And if you feel that strongly about it, we'd certainly encourage you to share it with your friends, pass it along to someone else. We've got a new format so that you can get this podcast directly on our website at zweiggroup.com, as well as on the zweigletter.com website. And it's always accessible to you. So certainly want to encourage you to take part in that when you can. And, we certainly appreciate the listenership, and we thank you for allowing us to give us a few minutes of your day, whether you're on the treadmill or on your way home from work, just to kind of hear what we're thinking over here at Zweig Group. And we continue to try to advance the cause of making the AEC industry a little bit better each day. And so I want to thank you again. And we also have a free gift for you. So we'd encourage you to visit freetzl.zweiggroup.com. And that free gift is 6-week subscription to the Zweig Letter, which has run continuously since 1992. And, the Zweig Letter, aside from being the primary mode of getting Mark's editorial ideas out and sharing all of his experience, it is just a collection of really great information for the design industry. I dare say it's probably one of the most complete collections of information that you're going to find in the design industry. So please, when you get a chance, go ahead and visit freetzl.zweiggroup.com. Get your 6-week subscription, get it in. We've got some new subscription packages coming up in 2017 that I can't wait to talk about, but we haven't released them as of yet. And we want to make the Zweig Letter available to everyone, from the entry-level project engineer, project architect, all the way up to everyone in the C-suite. We want to make this information available because we think that it can certainly help you both as an individual as well as a business. And so we certainly appreciate your participation with this newsletter. And of course, as always, our doors, our emails, computers, we're always open to hear feedback and know what you think about about the product and about our articles and what we're saying. And if you have any differences with them, we'll go toe to toe with anyone that wants to share with us and give us some ideas. So thank you so much, and appreciate you listening to this episode of the Zweig Letter Podcast. We will see you next week. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to this Zweig Letter Podcast. We hope that you can apply Mark's no-holds-barred advice to your daily professional life. For a free 6-week subscription to the Zweig Letter, please visit freetzl.zweiggroup.com to gain more wisdom and inspiration, in addition to information about leadership, finance, HR, and marketing your firm. Subscribe today.